Bruchim Aboyim, again, welcome to our home. Thank you for attending. This week on My Thoughts, we will continue with our in-depth examination of Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the fathers. This will be the 10th Mishnah in the chapter. This 10th Mishnah introduces us to the next pair of zugot, a pair of sages, that led the nation in their capacity of the Nasi, the president, and the Ab Bezdin, the head of the Supreme Judicial Court. This Mishnah introduces us to two sages, Shemaiah and Avtalion, who served as the Nasi, the president, and the Ab Bezdin, the head of the High Supreme Court, toward the end of the Hashmonaim era. Now this period began the reign of King Herod. Shemaiah and Avtalion were both descendants of the Assyrian king, Sanherib. There is a debate actually among the sages as to whether they were both converts or just the descendants of converts. Now both the Ramban, Nachmanides, and Rav are of the opinion that they themselves were converts. However, the Maharal of Prague disagrees, since according to Jewish law, a convert cannot serve as either a Nasi or Ab Bezdin. So he contends that they were both born of Jewish mothers. The Magen Avos suggests that they actually were appointed to the Sanhedrin even though they were converts. It would seem that they were the most illustrious scholars of the time. Well, that being the case, the rule that excludes converts from holding these offices applies only in the case where no suitable alternative is available. Now, Shemaiah lived in the 1st century BCE. He stated in this Mishnah some interesting ideas: love work, despise positions of authority, and do not become overly familiar with the ruling power. Reb Shimshon Raphael Hirsch states that Shemaiah's main thing is that this Mishnah is about personal independence. His first point is love work, since it allows one to become economically independent. Secondly, despise positions of power, since leadership is in reality a form of enslavement. A person is prone to protect his own power and prestige at any cost. Finally, he cautions to avoid the company of powerful friends. Many times they abuse that power to pressure a person to conform to their goals and wishes. Only a person who is content to live a simple private life, not seeking the limelight, and who has the ability to support himself through his own labor, can really be called truly free. The Mishnah begins with the words love work. He does not define what type of work one should love, since it really doesn't matter what type of work a person performs, as long as they enjoy what they do. Many great rabbis worked at menial jobs. Rabbi Yitzchak was a blacksmith. Rabbi Yochanan was a shoemaker. And the great Hillel was a wood chopper. All of our forefathers were actually shepherds. So we see that there is nothing shameful or degrading about one getting their hands dirty while performing any physical labor. Torah states in the portion of Bereshit that God took Adam, the first man, and placed him in the Garden of Eden to work it. The last word in creation of the world is lasso, to do. It states in the portion of Yisro, in the 10 Commandments, that 6 days of the week you shall work and do all of your tasks. We also read in the portion of Vayetze that Yaakov Avinu, Jacob our father, demonstrated a pristine work ethic, even though he worked for his unethical father-in-law, Lavan. From that relationship, the Tanchuma teaches that the merit of work is able to stand even where the merit of our forefathers does not. The Rambam, Maimonides, describes the extent to which an employee should invest himself in his job. He states in the Mishnah Torah Hilchos Zechirus that an employee is obligated to put all of his energies into his work, as did Yaakov Avinu. Therefore, Yaakov received reward for his work ethic in this world. As we read in the portion of Vayetze, where it states the man became extremely wealthy. In addition, the Rambam writes that an employee is cautioned not to steal from the labor that is due to his employer by neglecting his work slightly here and there, spending the entire day in deceit. The Rebbe writes in Likutei Sichos that it is the financial duty of the employee to his employer to put in an honest day's work, in addition to financial compensation from his employer. He is duly rewarded by God Almighty in the most direct and natural manner. There are two Hebrew words that describe work. They are avoda and malacha. This connects us with the laws of the Shabbat. A person can perform an avoda on the Shabbat, but he may not perform a malacha. So, an avoda is defined as an act that a servant would perform for a master, a menial task. A malacha is defined as performing a creative act, changing or creating something of value. When a person is able to express their creativity, they in some way become a reflection of their Creator. God created this world in 6 days, and then on the seventh day, the Shabbat, he rested, meaning he desisted from any further acts of creation, not that he was tired. So we emulate our Creator on the Shabbat by refraining from performing any creative acts. The Talmud in the tractate of Bava Metzia states that a person would rather have 1 bushel of their own wheat than 9 bushels of someone else's. It's human nature for a person to feel a sense of pride and accomplishment when they do a job well done. The advice given here is make your hobby your profession, and you will never work a day in your life. Though we complain about work, in reality it is essential that we feel this sense of accomplishment in our lives. It would appear that for a person to maintain their sanity and mental balance, they must perform some act that gives them purpose and a feeling of success. It's not unusual for a person to retire, only to die within a short period of time. Shemaiah points to the value of work as a stabilizing force. Work includes things like building, creating, fixing, and contributing with both our bodies and our minds. Loving work means enjoying the effort expended and the satisfaction of seeing dignity and productivity. The Mishnah states, despise holding any position of authority. The term used for authority here is the Hebrew rabbinut. This word may allude to serving as a rabbi. The Mishnah is telling us that one should love the creative possibilities of the rabbinate, but at the same time one should learn to despise the honor associated with the position. This is the only way that a person should enter into the rabbinate. They should love the labor, but remain indifferent to its honor. As the saying goes, it's not the position that honors a man, it is the man who gives honor to his position. Of course, the community should honor their rabbi. However, it is incumbent upon the rabbi that he must remember that the honor and respect that he is being afforded is not due to himself. It is for the Torah that he represents. There's a story told of Rabbi Levi Berdichev. There was a banquet that was being held in his honor, and before he entered the banquet hall, he asked to be left alone in a room for a short while. An hour later, he was still in the room. So, curious as to what he was doing there for so long, they peeked into the room. Well, they saw him pacing back and forth. They could hear him speaking to himself, but they couldn't understand exactly what he was saying. Well, they were concerned that maybe he was not feeling well. So they asked him if there was a problem. He told them that for the past hour I've been saying to myself all the praises and compliments that I thought would be showered upon me. My hope is this exercise will allow me to be unimpressed by all that I hear later. In addition, Shemaiah is warning about the danger of power and how it feeds one's ego. Lordship means authority used to dominate or elevate oneself over others. The Mishnah urges us to be suspicious of impulses that seek status for its own sake. Proper leadership grows from service, not from self-importance. The Talmud in the tractate of Eruvin states, honor flees from him who pursues it. However, he who flees from honor is pursued by it. Well, the question is, though, if a person does not desire honor, then why does he have to flee? The answer given is that everyone enjoys being complimented and appreciated, which is the reason why he's compelled to flee from it. The Mishnah concludes with, do not become intimate with the ruling authorities. As a general rule, the Mishnah is urging a rabbi to divorce himself from politics and courting public figures for his own honor. Of course, there are times and situations where a rabbi is compelled to interact with the governing authorities. However, his association with them should only be for the benefit of his community that he represents, rather than as a compliment to himself. It's interesting that the text does not use the common term malchut, which means a legitimate governing body. Instead, it uses the term reshut, which denotes the party that is currently in power. This implies a revolutionary government. History bears witness to the fact that Jews have been instrumental in many revolutions in modern history. This was the concern of the Egyptians, that the children of Israel would mount a revolution against the government and take over. The rise of communism and the Russian Revolution is a most tragic case in point. Many Jews were instrumental in bringing about the success of the revolution. They bled and they died for the cause. But in the end, they were Jewish, and for that they paid the ultimate price for their participation. They were betrayed by the revolution, and many were executed. Now, we as a people have endured persecution wherever we have resided. Anti-Zionism is the foreign policy of many countries. Yet at the same time, they call for self-determination for all national groups. This Mishnah is warning us against chasing favor or visibility among political powers. Rulers can shift with the times, and proximity to them can tempt a person to compromise their values. Engage only when necessary. Respect the law, but do not base your identity on the approval of those who are in power. Bottom line, Shema is telling us, love work and stay grounded. Avoid the love of status, stay humble, and keep a distance from the ruling class so that you have the possibility of keeping your moral compass your own. Now, I hope you found, again, this lecture interesting and informative. May God bless you with the strength and wisdom to follow the advice of the sages. Next week, God willing, we will continue with the 11th Mishnah in this chapter. Isn't it amazing that in 2,000 years nothing has really changed? So let us continue to pray again for a swift and complete victorious end to the war in the Middle East, with the total annihilation of Iran and all of her proxies. Let us celebrate the return of all the hostages. May God Almighty cure the sick and injured, comfort all the mourners, and return home all the brave IDF soldiers led by Mashiach Tzidkeinu quickly and in our time. Again, let me thank you for attending. If you will, please push the like button. If you have not subscribed, please do that. And try to share with your friends. It's a time in history where people are seeking God. They're looking for answers, both Jewish and non-Jewish. Again, so if you know people, share with them, talk with them about this. It's amazing. Everyone really is hungry, whether they realize it or not. God bless and be well. Shabbat Shalom. And again, thank you for attending.